There is a moment in almost every spiritual journey when you realize you're not as close to God as you used to be. It's not because you stopped believing, not because you turned your back, but because life handed you something heavier than your hands could hold. And somewhere in the middle of surviving, your trust took a hit. Maybe it was a loss you never saw coming. Maybe it was a prayer that stayed unanswered long enough to hurt. Maybe it was a season where God felt silent when you needed him loud. Or maybe it was a slow drift, one small disappointment at a time, until one day you woke up and realized your heart was keeping its distance. And now, even though you still love him, something in you hesitates. You pray, but not as boldly. You worship, but not as freely. You believe in him, but with a limp. You want to trust him again, but your heart remembers the pain. You want to lean on him, but part of you whispers, be careful. We don't talk about this part enough. The part where faith and fear live in the same chest. The part where you're trying to rebuild something sacred while still carrying the weight of what broke you. The part where showing up, but you're showing up guarded. And if that's where you are today, you're not broken, you're human. This is the part of the walk with God, the quiet and unspoken distance that forms when life wounds us deeper than our theology can explain. It's the place where your spirit says, I know God is good, but your story says, then why did that happen? But here's the truth most people never say out loud. Truth doesn't shatter all at once, and it doesn't rebuild all at once either. It rebuilds in a whisper, in small returns. The honest prayers that sound more like, God, I want to trust you, but I'm struggling. And God meets you there, not with pressure, not with shame, not with a lecture, but with presence. Because God doesn't need you to pretend. He doesn't need you to fake confidence or force a smile. He just needs you to come home, slowly, quietly, and honestly. Because sometimes trust is rebuilt in the smallest of ways. In the breath you take before you pray. In the verse that lands a little bit deeper than you expected. In the moment, you realize you're still talking to him, even after everything. In the quiet sense that he's been holding you together when you thought you were falling apart. Rebuilding with God isn't about getting back to who you were before the storm. It's about discovering who you are now and finding that God is still faithful here too. So today we're going to talk about what it looks like to rebuild trust with God. Not the polished version, not the churchy version, the real version. The version where your heart is still healing, but you're ready, finally ready, to take the next step toward him again. There was a time in my own life when I didn't realize how tightly I was holding everything. I thought I'd managed it well. The fear, the uncertainty, the responsibilities, the expectations. I didn't see how heavy it'd become until finally I set it down. Maybe you know that feeling. The feeling of carrying more than you were ever meant to carry. The feeling of trusting and trying to trust God while still gripping the steering wheel with white knuckles. Rebuilding trust begins with honesty, not perfection, not pretending, just honesty. God, I want to trust you, but I'm scared. God, I want to go back, but I don't know how. God, I want to believe you're rebuilding my life, but I've been disappointed before. He can work with that. He always has. Trust with God isn't about rebuilding in a single moment. It's rebuilt the way a craftsman rebuilds a home after a storm. Slowly, intentionally, one beam at a time. And the first beam is this. God is not asking you to trust him blindly. He's asking you to trust him personally. There's a difference. Blind trust says, I hope this works. Personal trust says, I know the one who I'm walking with. Rebuilding trust begins when you stop trying to understand everything and start remembering who God has been to you. Think back over your life. Not the pain, the faithfulness. Not the loss, the moments you carried, not the confusion, the times you were guided without even realizing it. Trust grows when you look at the road behind you and you see your fingerprints of God all over it. And then there's a second beam. Trust is rebuilt through small, honest steps. You don't have to leap. You don't have to pretend. You don't have to feel strong. You just have to take the next step toward Him. A whispered prayer, a moment of surrender, a breath of honesty, a quiet, Lord, I'm trying. God meets you in the small tips long before you're ready for the big ones. And the third beam is this. Trust is rebuilt when you stop carrying what was never yours. Some of us have been holding responsibilities, fears, and expectations that were never meant to sit on our shoulders. We've been trying to manage outcomes, control the future, and protect ourselves from disappointment. But truth grows when you release what you cannot control and let God be God again. Rebuilding trust is not about becoming stronger. It's about becoming softer, more open, more willing, more honest. And when you take those small steps, even the shaking ones, God begins to rebuild your life from the inside out. There's a moment, quiet, almost invisible, when you finally admit, God, I can't carry this anymore. And that moment is the turning point. It doesn't happen with fireworks. It doesn't usually happen in a church service where the music swells just at the perfect time. It doesn't usually happen because you suddenly feel strong. It happens because you finally got tired of being tired. You got tired of replaying the same questions, tired of trying to make sense of what broke you, tired of holding your breath spiritually, tired of trying to protect yourself from a God who's been trying to heal you. Letting go isn't giving up. Letting go is surrendering the illusion that you were never meant to carry this alone. Letting go sounds like, God, I don't understand what happened. I don't know why it hurt so much. I don't know why I felt so far away. But I'm not trying to fix this by myself. Letting go feels like unclenching your fist you didn't realize you were holding for years. It feels like breathing again. It feels like honesty. It feels like relief. It feels like the first step toward home. And here's the part that surprised me. When you finally let go, God doesn't rush with judgment. He doesn't say, what took you so long? He doesn't hand you a list of something you should have done better. He meets you with gentleness because God knows that trust isn't rebuilt through pressure. It's rebuilt through presence, through the quiet assurance that He never left you, not for a second. Letting go is the moment you stop trying to be your own healer. It's the moment you stop trying to be your own protector. It's the moment you stop trying to make sense of the story that only God can redeem. Letting go is the moment you say, God, I'm ready for you to hold what I can't. And something shifts. Not everything, not all at once, but something. A softness returns. A little trust flickers. A little hope rises. A little peace settles in the place that's been tense for too long. Letting go doesn't erase the past. It doesn't rewrite the pain. But it opens the door for God to step into it with you. And that's where trust begins again. Not in certainty, not with all the answers, not in explanations, but in surrender. The moment you let go is the moment God can finally take over. Not because He wasn't right before, but because you finally stopped gripping the pieces so tightly. This is the turning point. This is where the rebuilding begins. Not in strength, but in surrender. Not in clarity, but in honesty. Not in perfection, but in the simple, sacred act of letting go. That's a reflection of this episode. I wrote a poem for it called The Hands That Hold You. When the night feels heavy and the daylight's thin, when you're tired of the battles you keep fighting within, the strength that you can lean on when your own runs low, The hands that hold you won't ever let go. When the world starts shaking, your hope feels small. When you're bracing for the moment you might finally fall. There's a peace that whispers what your heart should know. The hands that hold you won't ever let go. Through the storms that rise and the tears that pour, through the doors that close, the unseen war. Love stands steady when the winds all blow. The hands that hold you won't ever let go. So breathe in courage, let the fear release. Let your trembling settle into a quiet peace. You're carried by a promise deeper than you know, by the hands that hold you that won't ever let go. As we come to the end of today's time together, I want to leave you with this simple truth that I've learned. Rebuilding trust with God is not a test. It's not a test that you have to pass. It's a relationship that you get to grow into again. Relationships heal through honesty, not perfection. You don't have to pretend you're further along than you are. You don't have to hide the places that still ache. God isn't asking you to be fearless. He's just asking you to be real, and real is enough. Because every step that you take matters. Every honest prayer matters. Every moment you choose to lean, even if it's just a little, matters. Because trust doesn't return in a single breakthrough. It returns in a series of quiet moments where you let God meet you exactly where you are, without pressure, without performance, without fear. So as you step back into the rest of your day, carry this with you. God is not disappointed in your process. He's not impatient with your healing. He's not waiting for you to get it together. He's walking with you gently, faithfully, one step at a time. May peace settle over you today. May hope rise in you again. May you feel the steady, quiet nearness of God, rebuilding trust with you step by step. I want to thank you for joining me here on Faith Between the Lines, and I hope I met you right where you are. You being here in this space matters. Your questions and comments are always welcome and can be left on YouTube, on my channel, or on Buzzsprout. If this message met you right where you are, share it. Until next time, walk gently, stay honest, and keep your heart open to a God who never stops drawing near. God bless our troops, and God bless this great country.